Hi, Misha here, and last time when we talked about some diecast models made by Eaglemoss in the Alien Predator line, we looked at the Prometheus. Today, I'm going to look at two. I was holding off talking about these until hopefully we got the USCSS Covenant, but now I guess we won't, so let's talk about its support craft, Lander 1, and the WY-37B lifter or lift sled. Both are roughly the same size models, which makes sense because in universe they are both roughly the same size too, although the lander is a little bit bigger. Yeah. Like I said, I was hoping we could start with the Covenant herself, but I guess we won't get one of those, so here we go. The Covenant was a colony ship. Prometheus was an exploration ship. The Nostromo was a tug ore processing ship. The Sulaco was a military ship, so kind of each one. And the Covenant was big, had a crew of 2,000 colonists in hypersleep, plus over 1,100 embryo in stasis. And it had an actual operating crew of 15. So, yeah, very big ship, and its propulsion and travel was pretty interesting. Actually, I really like the setting for these films, but just not the action part. It used big old solar sails, huge sails, to charge up the FTL drive. And what it would do, it would go in hyperspace, FTL, for a while till the engine was tired. It would return to subluminal speed near a star to recharge, and then it would jump back into hyperspace. The voyage where it was going to Oregi 6 was supposed to take about 9 years when it launched in the year 2103. And obviously it actually did get to Oregi 6, or at least presumably, so that's happy, right? But not really here to talk about that. But I do like the whole setup of portraying just the dangers and also some excitement of the colony ship. So it was big and it had support craft. It had one of these Y-37B cargo sleds, and it had originally two of these landers or dropships, although Lander 2 was destroyed before it actually left the solar system, so it only had Lander 1. So with that, let's talk about this. On to the spinny thingy. In universe, this is about 38 meters long, so over 100 feet. It only needed two, a pilot and co-pilot, to operate, but it could carry 10 passengers, and that was the idea. It was designed specifically by Weyland-Yutani, now combined. Remember, in Prometheus it was just Weyland, and owned by them and operated from the ship. It was basically just to get crew from the ship to the surface and patrol and what have you. It had 3 sections. In the cockpit area, human area, we had the pilot and co-pilot, and behind them we had the passengers in 2 rows of 5. And then there were various doors, hatches in the back leading to the 2 other sections. In the far rear, we had essentially the medical bay, which also had some workshop areas and just care facilities in it. And in the middle, preeminently for the ship, we had a payload bay. And it had a ramp for large access to the surface. It carried a rover, kind of like a modernized lunar rover in it, as well as basically a forklift, a skid lifter. So it had some heavy equipment. It also had some basic weapons for defense and what have you there. So those are the modules of it. It had 2 main primary engines in the rear, and then it had 4 sets of 2 VTOL or V-stall engines, so a total of 4 on each side. primary comms arrays in the front. There's also latching gear on the top so it can dock with its mothership. And the front and underside house heat shields for re-entry. Basically, this is the forerunner of the dropship from the movie Aliens. And the model shows it displayed with the skids out. Obviously, in flight, they would be retracted in. But that's okay. It's quite flat, boxy, utilitarian, but designed to be flexible and easily to repair, and just for long-term service. Soon the voyage alone is going to take a decade nearly, and then once they're there, they would need to use vessels as much as they could. It sits on the stand pretty well, thanks mostly to the little skids. They kind of sandwich it in there. This kind of cradles on, but it works. Very much a workaday vehicle, and it doesn't last very long in the show. It gets destroyed, and that leaves our remaining crew stranded on the surface. Luckily, unlike Aliens, when everyone from the Mishaco went down to the surface, at least the people on Covenant were smart enough to leave 3 people on board the ship. So 10 or 11 or so went down to the surface, leaving a few people to help them, which worked out well because at least they were able to. And that gets us to our next vehicle. This is essentially a cargo sled, a lifting body, just a metal deck, and also a mobile crane. And it's very obvious why a colony ship could use something like this. The idea was it could transport heavy loads from a suborbital craft down to the surface. It was never meant to go into full orbit, or definitely not deep space. It could carry various cargo vehicles, even like prefab modules for housing or businesses, whatever. Had quite a lift capacity, and it was quite versatile and flexible. It was very configurable, and it was designed with simplicity, durability in mind. Very basic controls. Essentially, it was just meant to go up and down. So we have kind of the same arrangement as on the lander. We have 2 main engines in the back, and then we have VTOL, V-stall thrusters and sets on the sides. And of course a heat shield, and it has skids that extend from the bottom when it needs to land. And yeah, it's just really a armored chunk. The deck has non-slip surfaces. It has attachment points for safety gear, and also has points to attach cargo to, and it can even be magnetized. Overall length with the ramp retracted is a little under 34 meters, and with the ramp extended, it's over 38 meters. The ramp's in the front here. We also have a small crew compartment that is pressurized with a little door in the back that is designed where people can do an EVA on the deck to work on cargo if it's starting to shift in flight. And it's just a really powerful, basically metal deck with engines. Not a whole lot to it. It's designed for long-term heavy use, very industrial, which definitely fits the Aliens universe. While it was never designed to be a rescue craft, that's exactly what it was used for. It was sent down by the remaining crew as a rescue vehicle, and even though it took a little bit of reconfiguration of the engines, it managed to actually climb from deep space, enter the atmosphere, retrieve the crew, plus a couple of guests, and make it back to the ship safely. So, very successful. Very much reminds me of some of the modern gear that can be, retro used for other purposes. It's kind of neat, actually. I didn't actually buy this for a long time because I thought when it was that lifter, I thought it was something like a power loader. I'm not really into that stuff. I like ships, but this is a neat ship. It just kind of sits on the stand, but the stand is actually not perfectly flat. It does have some contouring to it that kind of keeps this centered. It's just, you know, detailed bottom. It's actually very heavy. The entire deck is metal, so that's neat, with the detailing being the plastic. And does have a little alien on top of the canopy. Kind of wish he was removable, but be neat if he was metal and kind of magnetized to it. Clunk. But oh well. The crane's in the back here. The crane too was meant to be kind of versatile. It wasn't just picking things up. It could be used as an excavator. It could be magnetized. It could have like a tow hook and cable, I guess, in case they went up against AT-ATs. But it was just an industrial, multi-purpose, multi-use vehicle. It was actually designed to operate not only in a vacuum, but in subarctic cold, or even very hot environments, gaseous environments. In fact, these weren't just used on the Covenant. They were used on other starships and freighters. They were used on space stations. And of course, they were used on other colonies. In fact, they were a standard for about 100 years, not being replaced until the 23rd century, around 2200. So yeah, 23rd century. Not bad, Weyland-Yutani. It certainly was able to kind of go above and beyond its design spec. No weapons, though, of course. Yeah, kind of surprised how neat this one actually is. While these two models are not exactly to scale, again, the lifter should be a little bit smaller, and in reality they're about the same. You can definitely tell they're from the same lineage. Essentially, the lifter looks like it's the same space frame as the lander, just without all the built-up stuff. They have the same kind of thruster arrangement and all that fun thing, but very different purposes. But they're pretty neat. I like them more, especially the lifter, than I thought I would. I wish the lifter was a little bit more secure on its stand. It's not going to go anywhere if you don't bump it, but it does kind of wiggle. Be nice to have some way to center it. The lander at least kind of uses its legs to center, and it's pretty heavy too. They're both actually pretty heavy. They always do pretty well in this collection, though. They did not release many ships. Fewer here than pretty much anywhere else. We've only had maybe, 8 total? But when they do them quite well. And again, I really like the setting of early colony ship days. I just wish they hadn't got into the alien neomorph stuff and just kind of talked about the actual trials and tribulations of early space colonization. I think that'd be just a neat show in and of itself. Then again, I don't find 2001: A Space Odyssey boring, so maybe I'm weird. Probably am. But wanted to share these with you, so appreciate you hanging out. As always, if you could, please do like, share, and subscribe. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.